Welcome to another episode of Mahogany and Willow. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, Jeanette.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Today we're talking about a fun, interesting, and sometimes heartbreaking subject, which is really, really fascinating. But I want to start with a Maya Angelou quote, actually, just to kind of kick it off.
Okay.
She says, "The ache for home lives in all of us, the safe place where we can go as we are and not be questioned." So today, as you can imagine, we're talking about the search for home. And we decided to approach this subject because, interestingly enough, we all here have a home, and there's parts of us that feel like we're still searching for home, whether it be in relationships or, just safe spaces inside of ourselves or whatever it is. And that's why we felt it was such an interesting topic. For me, I have a home, I have a farm, I have all this stuff that I deeply, deeply love. And I still feel somehow homeless, which is so odd.
That is odd.
It is.
And why is that?
It obviously, to me, it's funny because for so many years after the kids were out of the house and doing their thing, I wanted to move really, really bad. And it was just that I can't handle being here without them feeling.
Yeah.
So I wanted to change space in hope that I could change emotional states. Really. And I really fought for a long time. I wanted to go, felt the need to stay, but, wanted to go. I think that just really tells me that there's something inside of ourselves that we're really searching for when it comes to home. There's some other space that's safe space for us.
Yeah, I agree. I have been on that journey myself a few times, and I love that Maya Angelou quote, by the way. She's amazing. I mean, what is home? I mean, is it four walls? To everyone, it's different. And I've moved around a lot myself, and I have been in many homes, if you want to call them homes, but very, very few I actually felt at home. Of course, the beginning is my childhood home that I grew up in, and still to this day, my parents live in that same home. And no matter whatever happens, that will be my home base. It's just, it's in my DNA. It's something I always say, that's in my DNA. And it really is. And it's because it's the only home I ever knew as a child. I was one of those fortunate few that had that one house. And still today in my 50s, they're still in that same house. So not even my siblings can say they've lived in just one house. But my mom was pregnant with me when the house was being built. So that home, it's almost like trying to follow up the fact that my parents are still married to this day. Like, I want that house for my kids forever. I want that, marriage, the forever and ever. And today, it's just not the same, So you search for that home. You search for the happy ever after. You search for that comfort zone. You search for whatever it takes to give you that feeling. And then when you find it, you've got, your kids now, you're raising children, you're focused, you're busy, you're a full-time parent, you're nonstop, you're just going through the years and mowing them down like crazy. And all of a sudden, what happens next? They leave.
Right.
They leave. And then that feeling of, this is the home that I knew for so many years. And yes, we may have moved in there, but my home was my children. My home was the role as their mother. My home was my duties, and I took all that very seriously. And all of a sudden, that's gone. So I was like you. I'm now an empty nester. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to feel that feeling. I want to find what that home feeling is again and go on the search. And it's crazy what we end up doing is when at the end of the day, maybe home is just what's inside of you, and you can make a home anywhere that you land. It's just a matter of what the uneasiness is that's going on inside of you that won't allow you to settle down again and be at ease and comfort with yourself. And that's kind of what I've struggled with for a while is my role as a mom, full-time mom is over. The kids don't need me as much anymore. I'm not saying they don't need me now, but you know what I mean. They're grown, and so they have their own lives, and I'm blessed to see them when I see them. But that feeling of home, it took me a long time to really start to feel at home, and I found it, with John in Nevada. But then fast forward to right now, that feeling of uneasiness starts to creep in again at this age. I think sometimes we get to the middle age and we start to question, okay, what's my role now? I don't have, a big career. I don't have, all this or that other people have, but I live in a beautiful place with an amazing person. But I'm still searching for something that in my mind and heart makes me think that I'm looking for home. And it's interesting when you dive deep into this, what you start to uncover inside yourself.
I remember my parents, for 17 years of my growing up age, until I was in my early 20s, my parents lived in one place in Payette. And after 17 years, I was already in my own apartment, but that felt like home to me. And they sold the one place and they bought another one. And it was really hard for me. That seemed, it just seemed unimaginable that home, even though I had another, it was an apartment. And of course you don't feel established at all, because when you're early in your adult years, nothing feels certain or safe or anything else, but you know what I mean? But I remember when they sold that house, and I remember watching all this stuff be removed, all the things come off the wall and everything moves out of the house. And it was just the oddest sensation of, the only thing that I could say is literal homelessness. I mean, that's what it felt like. And it was interesting because they bought another house and, nothing like the first at all. And the first several times that I went over there, when there was nothing on the walls and there was no furniture out yet, you know what I mean? It feels like a complete foreign land. And I remember as my mom put it together and put stuff up on the walls, and I started seeing, I had children at the time, I started seeing my kids playing on the floor, and it was weird because it was almost as if as the pieces were put in the home and I started seeing the people around it. The first summer we had some really big family gatherings, and it was kind of odd how it didn't ever feel home like the first home, but it felt important in a different way. And I was wondering, while I was thinking about that, if there is some way to do that inside of oneself, as those structures that were in place for so long with our children and, the roles that we play, if there's some way for us to dismantle those, not dismantle the ties, but dismantle the remnants, because the remnants almost feel like ghosts.
Right. Absolutely.
They kind of feel like a structure that I remember, but no longer is there.
Right.
And it makes me wonder if there's some way to dismantle those structures within ourselves in some way to start rebuilding.
Yeah.
I wonder what rebuilding yourself looks like.
Yeah. That's really interesting, honestly, as I'm listening to you say that, because more than anybody that, the last little while for me has been a bit of a struggle, bouncing between two states and going through some personal things and trying to connect to, okay, that's my home. This is my childhood home. And where do I fit in the middle, and somewhat feeling lost and torn between two places and feeling like I need to land somewhere. And it's very difficult, the struggle that goes on. I love the childhood home. I love the fact that my parents are still there in the same home that all I ever knew my whole life as my home base. Because I know how much it hurt when my grandparents passed away, we were constantly at my grandparents' house. And it was where everybody gathered, cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody. And it was the centerpiece of our family forever, for the first 24 years, 25 years of my life. And that was really difficult when you, like you said, you kind of dismantle your only vision of that home that you grew up in and those people that you adored and loved with all the other things that were always going on there. It's like a grieving process to see that they are no longer there, that home is no longer theirs, and the home doesn't look the same. It can't even drive by. It's a grieving process to finally come to terms with that's no longer ever going to be there. Now, come the day that my parents' home will no longer be in the family, that's going to be devastating, just because that's the core of who you are, and it's not so much the home itself as it is what happened in the home, the memories within the home,
true.
the memories outside the home, everything. Because, of course, that is just a structure, and it is an innate object. It's nothing that has feeling and emotion, unless it's haunted, of course, but it's not. So, but just that home in itself is, and again, now that's the core for all of the grandkids from, all of us that we provided for our parents, and then, the great grandkids. And so it's just this perpetual thing that just keeps going. And then that home will be gone one day, and then we all have to deal with that grief and then move forward. But like right now, between my home in Nevada and my home base, which is where I grew up here, and going back and forth and trying to find, where's my place? Okay, I should be further along in my life. I should have more. I should have, more of a settled, history. I should blah, 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 blah. And that starts more of a struggle where you go, okay, where am I supposed to be? And again, it all comes back to home. And my home is here. My home base is here. Where does Tiffany belong? So my search for home is probably a little different than other people's, because it's not necessarily, I'm not looking for a house.
Right.
I'm not
No.
looking for a structure.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that stable environment that I can settle down at the end of the day and know that I have accomplished something that actually provided something for me, and that I'm no longer uneasy and restless about where I'm headed, what I'm doing. And so it's interesting, the journey that I'm on that will eventually take me to what I consider to be my forever home, because there's no way that where we live right now is something that we can sustain in our elderly years. It is absolutely not. It's not going to happen. It's good for now, and I feel at home there, but in my heart and soul, I'm not at home and I'm not at rest. So it's interesting when we talk about home, how it can zigzag off into different things that bring you back to, why do you feel that way? What's going on inside of you that makes you feel that way? So that's kind of and I'm sorry if I went off a little bit, but home to me is more than a structure, more than four walls. And it's feeling at home within myself and my own skin and my life inside those four walls. That is now my home. So I had to take a breath after that one. Kind of got me all ramped up, overthinking a little bit. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on all that, Jeanette?
Yeah, home is definitely that metaphorical. I mean, that's what we're speaking about, and it's definitely internal. And I guess my brain still floats around the subject because I still feel that emotional homelessness. I still feel, and now my family structure has changed again, and yeah, I guess I still do just feel a little homeless.
Yeah. Well, and it's understandable because of the loss. And I have, that written in my notes, that grieving and loss and all of that can contribute to you feeling, like you said, emotionally homeless. And what are you supposed to do?
Well, and it's interesting too, because One of the reasons that I wanted to talk about it is it's something that I've been thinking. I mean, I've been feeling myself in that space. And then you and I were talking and you were expressing that to me.
Yes.
And what's wild is so many other people have also said things to me about that. Maybe not using such the term of home, but definitely feeling things like untethered, feeling things like, the insecurity of life around us, just different things where it makes me wonder if we all have some level of that is missing, or that we just haven't found the solidity around it yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you were to talk to my mom and dad, they are at home as home can get. And that is beautiful. Those are the things I strive for, and I'll mention it. I've mentioned it 100 times. I'll mention it 100 more about, their lifelong relationship, the things that I've always strived to have. And it just wasn't in the cards for me. The home that I wanted to raise my kids in, from the ground zero to full grown. And that's where the grandkids come home. That's what I always wanted. That wasn't in the cards for me. And I think that I've always had that restlessness my whole life. And even though I wanted that, it never happened. It's never going to happen. There will be eventually a home base, like maybe now in Nevada for another 10 years, I don't know, that the grandkids can come to, the kids all come to, and we gather as a family, and that is our home base. But the inside Tiffany is still not settled, still not settled. And it got worse after the last couple years. It got worse. And it's going through emotional turmoil. It's going through grief. It's going through loss and things. I'm sure you obviously can relate to that turmoil. And you sit back and you have to recognize this is what's going on. Now, what's the solution? What are you going to do about it? Can you do anything about it? Is there a solution? It's not necessarily 4 walls that's going to make that feel better inside of me, make me feel more complete. It's things that cannot be fixed by building a structure here in Idaho, closer to family. That's not the solution. The solution is inward and trying to figure that out. And so where do we go from here?
I know. In a podcast, we're supposed to talk about things and then solve and give you all solutions, aren't we? And we're going to kind of tank on that one.
But that's called being raw. And and we're human. Boy, howdy, right? Definitely. Very human.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? You're the deep, deep diver.
We will have a search for home part 2 when we figure that out, right?
Well, I think that so many of us go through so many changes and nobody prepares us. Nobody gave me a manual when I had my first child and said, this is exactly what you're going to do. Nobody gave me a manual when she turned, grade school. Nobody gave me a manual when they said, okay, junior high, crazy, hormones, blah, 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 drama, girls are awful, and this is how you handle it, and this is how you console your daughter who's inconsolable. Nobody gave me a book. Nobody helped me through high school. None of that. You learn as you go. And then nobody sure as hell gave me a manual, and they said, oh, Mom, your heart's going to break into 1,000 pieces when she walks out that door and doesn't come back to ever live with you ever again. Wait, what? Wait, no. Oh, yeah, and here comes number 2, Mom, and then she's going to walk out that door, and she'll never, ever come back and live with you ever again. Oh, my God. Yeah, nobody prepares you for that. Mm-hmm. So that version of home was blown apart. Because baby number 1 leaves, baby number 2 leaves, and you know how that works. It's excruciating. And so you're that mom that's out there. And again, you and I were single moms intermittently through all of this, trying to balance and manage and and pick up your broken heart along with just keep functioning and moving forward. Just keep functioning and moving. That's what you have to do. And in the meantime, there's a move here and there's a move there. And then, okay, make a home here. And it's probably some of my most memorable times were as a single mother with my kids.
Right.
Right?
I agree.
Those
when
moments.
You can really focus. Yes, I agree.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm smiling, if you can't tell by the, I am smiling because it meant everything to me. But I was needed. I was useful. I was, everything about it was just perfect. And then it was after that it was those intermittent times of ups and downs, losses, start overs, all that you start to kind of lose things over the years. And then you just keep getting older, and then you're met with some funky health issues here and there or whatever. And life just keeps throwing you stuff. And you think, okay, I'm looking for that feeling again, that feeling of home inside my heart and soul. And although I have a beautiful place to live right now, I still miss them like crazy. And there are times that I really want peace, and I want that tranquil feeling inside of me again. And it's interesting how it's ebbs and flows, it's ups and downs. And sometimes it's like, oh man, everything's perfect. And other times you're like, man, I really miss that. Mm-hmm. And seeking it out, it's interesting. So home is definitely not just a structure.
No, definitely not. And the search for home may be continual.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it may be something that we go through for all kinds of different reasons. Maybe that's why it's so important for us to really come to understand how to create that structure and stability within ourselves, really within ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my time between children and life, after my boys left and before some other things happened, I was finding some space in myself where I could feel those pockets of safety. I hadn't quite made a home in it yet. And maybe the reason that I still feel homeless is, because of the other things that happened. But during the time between my sons leaving home and creating their lives and now, I did find a little bit of assistance with some techniques, some therapy, different techniques, I guess. I found Psych K, which is amazing. And if anyone has is out there feeling that homelessness, Psych K is a great one. It's a very quick technique. I mean, it can be utilized very quickly, and it can be utilized frequently. So it's kind of great. And it kind of gives you that little bit of a landing place. Hypnosis is really, really great. That's another one that's super great for reprogramming of the mind, which is fantastic. And I've used that a lot. And I actually use that a lot even in the circumstances over the past few years, when I couldn't meditate, when I was feeling way too out there and couldn't meditate, I used hypnosis, because hypnosis direct, somebody else doing it and being able to follow that, it was a lifesaver. Tapping is another great one. If we implement those feelings of homelessness, I think tapping would be a great technique for people to kind of give them another way to clear those feelings out. I mean, maybe that's a way to clear the ghost structure. That might be a really good one. And then, of course, heart coherence. That work is always super wonderful and makes one feel very safe and comforted while they're doing it. And over time kind of gives them, again, another foundation to maybe start, maybe that's it. We're just still in the building phase of our next metaphorical home. I mean, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. So can you explain what the Psych K.
Psych K is really, really interesting. And I would never be able to do it justice, only because it's super simple. You can find things. I have a 4-minute technique that, just a blurb video that we can attach to this. That's just amazing. It was a true game changer.
Really?
Yeah. Especially for those foundational, sometimes we don't realize how foundational our perceptions or our beliefs have. We don't realize how deep they go. And this is one of those that you don't really have to take the deep dive into it. You can restructure those feelings and beliefs and thoughts that have been patterned for so long. You can restructure them, and the video is 4 minutes long.
Wow.
So it's super great. Bruce Lipton is one who talks about Psych K a lot. He's a great one to listen to about it, and you can find all kinds of material on Psych K specifically. Yeah,
I will look into that.
Yeah,
I'm always searching. So anything that helps me to kind of settle down a little bit. I mean, I've done a lot of settling over the last few months, way more than where I was, and I'm grateful for that. But it's that pull of where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? And the loss of that easy home feeling. Yeah. I mean, I get it when I go home for a while, and then it starts to creep back up again. And it's just that. And I know it has everything to do with I should be here. I should be helping my parents. I shouldn't be out having fun. I should be, I should be here. And it's really, really difficult to kind of bounce between the lines and not really have that foundation. So if this helps, I will get on it, and then I can tell others after the fact what it was like. So I appreciate you're always full of such great information.
Well, we also want to invite listeners,
Yes.
If you've found something that has worked for you. Tiffany and I are both in that phase currently, and we would love the advice. We would love for someone to offer us more options and tools so that we can actually implement it and continue to rebuild these structures within ourselves. We would really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And if you have a victorious story for what you did because you felt this way at one point and share your journey through that, we would love to hear it.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So we appreciate
we're hanging by threads. So
literally.
Definitely share.
Yes.
Share anything that you have, because we're certainly open for other people's perspectives of it. And we know we're not alone. And at the same time, we can end up feeling alone while we're dealing with it. So we would surely appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely feel you can feel alone for sure. And this doesn't have to be, you against the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm really bad at that, and I'm sure you're not the best at asking for help or just talking to somebody. And sometimes it just really helps. So anyway, we really, really appreciate you bearing with us through this very personal and interesting Mahogany and Willow episode.
Because there's always something important to talk about.